you know, get big man advantages, just not able to translate those and convert them into their own victories and rounds on the board. And that's what we need to see from them, because otherwise it's going to be a very one-sided affair. I'm enjoying the music.
I'm loving the music. I'm feeling the vibes. I am living. Yeah, I think this is the thing about this map as well. As they sort of shared, Skyscraper is, it's an uncomfortable attack. It is a very long map to get yourself moved around on. It's very shoeboxy. Yeah. It's, you know, it's a lot of tight corners. There's a lot of checking your 90s. There's a lot of sort of movements that have to be slowed down just on the structure of the map itself. So G2 here, if there are any other team, you're looking sort of 2 attacks, you're looking for a little bit of confidence before you head onto your defense, especially with how NIP struggled on their attacks in the most recent map. That is such a second level of pressure here, because if you get flawless on your attacking half on a map like Club, and then you've got to attack Skyscraper next, that's a sort of alarm bell moment.
Now, Fenrir is being taken out with G2 again. Does this mean we're seeing the Tubby to be removed from NIP? We saw it last time. Yeah, there we go.
Tubby?
Again. Yeah, Tubby. Some people call him them. Yeah, call him that.
Tubby?
Tubberau. Yeah, Tubby.
Mean.
No Tubberau.
I just, you know, Tubby is like calling someone like fat.
Oh, no, I didn't know.
Oh, okay. Maybe that's just like an English thing. If you call someone like Tubby, it's like, oh, you're a little bit tubby. It's like, hey, I'm trying to lose weight.
I thought that's chubby.
Tubby, chubby. You know, there's a lot.
Okay, well,
Humans
I thought it just, I read it and I thought, oh, that's cute.
Humans have invented a lot of words to talk about each other.
Well, I'm sorry. I meant Tubberau.
Tubberau. All right. We find ourselves here starting on what is often and what is pretty much a hand lock in the first pick site for teams to defend onto Skyscraper. You can get yourself sort of, if you want to wrap your head around this map and how to approach it, the most common way is think of it like top floor clubhouse, where if you're going for, say, a CCTV take, you would do some of the work towards the site, but your main pressure comes across the top floor. You lock in, or actually even a better comparison, Villa, if you remember how that would play. You would sort of get yourself in on top floor, you secure the stair set, so in the top right, you've obviously got house, stairs, and the opposite end is the 2 sets towards it. And then you sort of just make sure that you have that protection on a back line. Here, with the lineup we've got, the Blackbeard, the Candelas, and the Finker, we might see something a little bit sharp and tasty.
Quick opening onto the VIP wall there is going to be putting up some pressure onto the side of NIP, who are, of course, playing out there. Now, the big thing about Skyscraper, though, is we have that giant divider stopping house from the restaurant side of the map, and you know there's only 2 doorways through there, and usually that's where we see a lot of the strong points to be created by these defensive teams. The question is, will NIP play the same like that, or are they more fluid? Because we already see quite some pressure coming through the side with Candelas coming up right as Doki moves right through the actual barbed wire.
Oh, looks for the fight and wins it, covered by the audio. Benja's able to get one, and as I said, it's going to be short, start, and sharp and sweet. They break their through into their way right into the site itself. Alamau's going to go for the plant behind the hard wall. They have control of the site itself. I said the standard take is on the back end. That's what they were prepared to try and defend against. But here, a post plant. They've got control of the windows of the site. They've got a Blackbeard to put on a window as well. And, I mean, this has really been a smash and grab take. Alamau gets the lockdown with, as I said, the Blackbeard in that role. Pino has to try and rotate up a stair set and make all the noise in the world because they left the barbed wire solid. They then have that. As the attackers, the barbed wire makes noise for whoever passes through it. And it's just a very little clever use of their saying, oh, you had this for us? We are leaving it there for you.
And it slows you down as the attacker, not so much as the defense. But what
it's the audio.
It's the audio that's most important, and that's why it gets played. What happened here is, oh, there's 3 people offside.
Smash and grab.
You know what that means? Oh, we're ready anyway. Let's just go. They spot an opportunity. They instantly go for it. And this is some kind of playstyle siege that I haven't really seen as much as I'd like, where, you know, sometimes there is just a lot of roaming going on the opposite side of the map. However, there's only 2 doorways to get back to this side of the map. So what do? See the opportunity to just grab it with 5, and you manage to get yourself in a big advantage out there. So I really like the call that's made by G2 there.
The play, as well as I said, the staircases are the pressure points of this map. The sort of two-pronged attack there. Well, I say three-pronged attack because they had the Blackbeard on the window of the site itself, ready to hold off. They then had Benja pushing up the restaurant stairs, the main stairs, and you had black stairs covered by Doki. It was a very, very good play. Stats, 7 of the 10 players in the lobby have lifted the SI hammer. This will be the highest percentage of SI winners in a single lobby throughout potentially the whole tournament.
Yeah.
If these two teams meeting each other, this is where champions are made.
Or have been made.
Or have been made.
Taking point, get behind me.
Now, to don't hear Blackbeard's voice lines often, Benja's going to be playing that. That shield is an advantage, but also a bit of a disadvantage, because as soon as you start swinging, you see that shield before you see the player itself. So you can take that out before you hit the player. Flashbang's coming through. Benja still trying to hold off, and because it is such a tight angle, he's wanting to have that little bit of extra protection to his face.
Doki still on the Ying, still trying to find their way up the back end. There is a very tight angle being held there by Cons, but he doesn't quite get the reward out of it. Instead, he gets the, hey, there's a Monty now.
Yeah.
Has to play against it. There is a bit of a rotation coming underneath, I believe. I'm not quite sure on where the pressure is coming through, but they're trying to offer some support towards Wizard, who is going to be battling himself, and it's Virtue that is forcing the player away. The floor-bound keeper barrier, as he said, is just making things a bit more protected here for Cons. And as I said, the sweep across, they're not quite able to get the first catch until Doki finds it from that vertical.
Yeah, the keeper barrier allowed Wizard to stay alive a little bit longer as the C4 gets tossed out, not really exploded. Now they'll start to move through. They know about 2 players being out here. Cons gets down from below, and really G2 is just completely annihilating any given single bit from NIP, as it's only up to Muzi now. And he's trying to retake in a part that's not even close towards the side. As soon as they realize site's clear, G2's just going to be exerting themselves, or maybe even now, because Muzi just made himself known.
I mean, Alamau has the kit in sight once again. I mean, you're in a 1 versus 3 post-plant, and they have a Monty. 1 versus 2 post-plant, they still have a Monty. That's going to be the big sort of shake. And as I said, this is a hefty map to go for rotate. There's not too many sort of freewheeling options. It looks a little bit short on paper, and the drop down to try and take the buck first is the very clever read. Muzi, a hugely intelligent player here, knows exactly where to sort of put the pressure on. He's been in this situation plenty of times. He's playing against the Monty that's taking it out, and there's that intelligence. But there's also 18 seconds. He's got to force the fight here, but it's Virtue to win it out. Almost Muzi making, probably, if he pulled that off, a play of the tournament in the opening day.
Yeah, almost managed to clutch it out. Well played by him. And, you know, really those goo mines again coming in there. Alamau having to pull that out because otherwise he just dies if he does nothing. And he gets shot whilst he's pulling it out.
For the context on that, that was an unwinnable situation. Muzi almost won.
Yes, it was. It was a 1v4 situation out there, opposite side of the map. As soon as he managed to get that first kill, that's the plan going down and everybody setting up for it.
And in those 4 players, Blackbeard and Monty.
Yeah, like Monty can block off any doorway, right?
Yeah.
It's
hugely big brain that as a player as well keeps us calm. And if there's anyone left alive, you sort of want them on the board. The ping just came round at the end there, bitterly close. We go to Barbecue. They're going to keep the site rotating. They're going to find themselves in towards the ground floor here, or the first floor if you're American.
10 seconds to go.
I'm not sure what it is in the reference here. I guess I should. I think it's ground. I'm thinking about elevators that I've.
You mean in Brazil?
Yeah. Do they do ground first like we do in Europe?
Press the things.
Yeah. And press the button.
Yeah. So I assume it's ground.
Now, we open this up by saying, hey, Skyscraper, not that easy to attack. Let's be honest, you two are making it look quite easy. This is how good they are at the map, though. Less a comment on NIP, I would say, for now, and more a comment on G2's abilities at sort of demonstrating this. Hugely confident for them. Huge map choice for them. And they've sort of put in that performance so far.
Muzi was about to go for a run out there, but wasn't quite able to catch the person to go on their drones just outside. As Doki hops in and out, we'll be taking care of that goo mine before it does any damage or any more damage than it does on the initial pop. But it's just to make sure that they can move in right afterwards. And you already see that the complete house side of the map is being systematically cleared out. They know about the player that's in Drum Muzi falling back again, so more space opens up. That means that they can move in freely there.
Note as well, as I break my way through and they break across, it's taken a minute to get to this point. The site is obviously down below. They're just steadily clearing as much as they can. They're about to maybe be swung on. No, they pulled away from gold, and Doki, he was so concerned about the pressure being put on them because he knows that's how they lost someone in the round before. Pino, not too far away from the fight. Con's even closer. Does he know about Doki? No, is the answer. He's able to get himself a second victory. There's the fight right back through the door, though. Muzi leading an important charge here and making sure that he can grab the reins of NIP and saying it's not over until it's over. There, Pino in this 1 versus 4 situation gets the first, cannot get the next. G2 twice in a row, 3 in a row at the opening game and the opening map and the opening half. And I said NIP don't always have the best time on their first day.
Yeah,
They have the worst.
I was just going to say, if you thought Clubhouse was one-sided, I mean, that still had a little bit of back and forth in the rounds. If it wasn't for the music clutch that we almost saw happen out there, there would be barely any kills. There would be 1 kill, maybe 2.
The worry, Hap.
Yeah.
They still have to attack.
No, that's it. That's why they're going to be a bit slower.
That at this point is sort of, as I said, 2 rounds for a lot of teams on Skyscraper Attack is like good and confident. And as you can see, NIP taking their time out both times. It's an intense reflection of the first map here. 3 rounds lost. Take the time out, see if they can work things together. And I mean, you have to just give it here to G2. They played a great hidden game on Clubhouse. They sort of demonstrated a power there. And now they're sort of playing a strong game. One that they've said, we are a Skyscraper team. Try and fight us here.
Yeah.
And, well...
I do still think it's funny, though, how they struggled against G2E.
Well, I mean, this is the thing about... We always used to say it's maybe an excuse to say, look how they're struggling outside of it, how they perform inside of it. We've seen teams not have the best time in off-season.
Yeah.
You can talk about it as the other EU team that's playing right now. Wolves haven't had a great time in the off-season. I'm not going to spoil the results. I've heard it's bitterly fought on the other stream as well, whereas G2, they're having a very smooth ride here right now. Are they saving strats? Do we say the special saving strats words?
No, I mean, okay, so we've had a conversation with Fabian about it as well, and he's like, if you're saving strats, that's where your fundamentals show up. That's where your team play needs to be on point, and where's your communication needs to be on point. And even then, I mean, we would expect it. It doesn't happen in most other esports. You should be able to take down a tier 3 team.
Yeah, you should be able to outgun them.
Yeah, so, I mean, again, Siege, very special game with lots of different factors going in. It's not just pure gun skill. So maybe it is a bit more like that, but it is still looking good for G2 now with the way that they're stepping up in this first and second map of their tournament.
G2, one of only 3 teams that's been able to get towards the live stages across the majors this year. The other 2 being W7M and FaZe. So they have themselves, I'm not going to say the greatest run, but a pretty good run to come on the back of the win before. Wizard, as I said ages ago, has a great entry statistic to his name. Hasn't quite been able to get it in this tournament as of yet, but with the first being Blackbeard removed and Alamau, they're kind of playing in to the defense this time. Remember last time round, they smashed and grabbed the site? Well, this time they're doing that take I said is sort of the default, and it's being locked down. Virtue does find the fight against it. Doki ready to roll and blind onto the player that's just tucked behind the Kiba. There's the swing round onto one. They can't quite get it. Ring around the rosies. Finally finds the end. There's one more player tucked just towards the back of the bar. Uno's watching for the rotate out. They want to try and force the arm onto Pino. He's not blinded, and Psycho's there for support. Swings on the fancy trophy armor. And Uno has left a little bit watching and waiting with hands. He's hoping the player drifts in, but they are fully aware that this is the cutoff catch.
Everybody's offside again. There's no one offside. I mean, it's that the diffuser dropped outside after they got that first kill, but it's like Virtue's just chilling inside there. He's like, do I go down Are you going to pick up the diffuser, or should I go grab it, or are we going for kills instead? Because right now, everybody's just on the opposite side of the map. And no one is thinking about coming back either right now.
Look, they're concerned about Valkyrie cameras.
Of course they would be.
She's on the board. As you sort of said, they're trying to piece it together. Now, the setup that we can sort of see from the top here is they're holding onto drum. They're holding onto the long watch. There's the rotate, the foot angle that goes around the back of the drum all the way through towards the terrace on the back end. They had the watch. There's Wizard spraying through on the soft. They had the read on the player, probably audio, which leaves Virtue in this clutch situation. Battling either side of the bomb chassis. There's the 1 versus 1. Fires towards the second. They've rotated their way towards the back end of Geisha and Makeup. How aware of it is Virtue? He is a huge power player. He's against Wizard in this fight. He baits the motion. It's a hard wall. He's going to go for the rotate round onto the soft either side. The swing and the ping, but he cannot get it. Wizard, the magic man, pulls out a trick of his own.
That was way too close for comfort there again, though, for NIP. And they will find themselves around right after the timeout they've done. And surely there was Valkyrie cameras, because you saw that as soon as they repel in with the diffuser. They wait for the right moment and they start banging through that wall. Manage to find that kill again, drop that diffuser. And because of that, they find themselves 3-1 right now. But you mentioned it before, 2 rounds on the attack is already considered sufficient enough. G2 already have 3, and it doesn't look like they're willing to slow down yet for NIP.
All right, NIP, we're breaking through. As I said, you know, and as you guys have seen throughout the year, they can be a very strong team that's just a little bit slow to piece things together. They need to get a fire, and we're starting to get that. This is the hints of a team that has been a little bit, you know, beleaguered, a little bit knocked around. They are, I think, the 4th ranked team from their region. But if you read the wonderful newsletter, the wonderful magazine that Fresh put together, Up the Siege, if you haven't, please do go check it out. I think all of us have retweeted it and sung its praises, but it is so deserved. If you're new to Siege, if you're experienced in Siege, you read through it. He's gone through all the teams, interviewed them, and got such fantastic insight to get you all ready to go for this. Huge, huge shout out for Up the Siege by Fresh.
Yeah.
You will get the taste of a lot of the top teams. They think, you know, LATAM's going to win it. They think Brazil's going to win it.
Yeah.
And then the second, probably Brazil. Oh, and third place, probably Brazil is third favorite as well. The region is in a good spot right now. And this is the predictions from all around the world, from all of the teams and all of the players.
It is always different, though, when you finally do end up on the event. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen like any official Tier 1 play. Meta has shifted as well in the meantime. Not that we're getting to see much of it with Tuberao banned, but it always does change things up a little bit. And it really relies on which team can adapt the best to it. As the Grimbees, as we wanted to dub them earlier, being tossed out to stop any player from the run out to use that.
Now, G2, they're slowing their pace a little bit. I mean, let's be real. They've already secured enough attacks onto this half that they should have. But this map can be slow. This map can be measured and weighted. They don't want to sort of throw themselves in, because although it's been successful, how many times is that golden lesson? Look at this, just holding himself either side of the bees, but Benja at this range, at this pace, will get the audio, but the pressure could come from the back of Terrace onto the swing. It's Cons. It gets rid of Virtue, gets rid of the watch before. Wizards behind the Kiba. There's Bino getting one more, and look at this crossfire. Absolutely gorgeous from NIP. All of them had a different 1 versus 1 that they were synced up and ready for in an intricate network. As soon as the first was pulled, suddenly all of them were in a position to swing onto the second and the third. Beautiful read on that defense.
Yeah, for sure, but it was not just like 1v1s in separate positions, but also being ready to support one another.
Oh, it was
you saw it there on the run out. You see one in Terrace, you see one right next to the bar, one gets shot, the other one swings, and that way you can actually find yourself in the advantage in most of those situations. So it looks like we might actually head towards a flawless round here from the side of NIP. As there comes the repel. Uno, not able to get the kill quite yet in the first attempt. He's going down to about 1 HP. And that run outs might soon follow as well by the side of NIP.
I mean, there it is, a flawless from NIP. They just shut it down. This is something that we've sort of been missing from them, is this team play, this interconnected idea of, oh yeah, we know what we're doing, we had to watch. And as I said, it was maze-like. They had the angles in the setup, they had the support, they had themselves ready to be in a position to go against each other, and suddenly, things get shut down. G2's approach pulled apart, and they can't quite know what they're doing.
All right, so the crossfire is working out very well together. Can they keep that up for yet another round? Round 3 that they would like to take on the board as well. Barbecue, again, is where we're headed.
Back to Barbecue, the hungriest site in Siege.
I was just going to say, we once dubbed the hungriest side in Siege.
I mean, it's how you remember it. 3-2, and G2. There's a fun stat in the top left. The first team to make it back to SI is reigning champions since SSG were able to do it in 2021. So we've had 2 years of teams winning it and then not being there.
Yeah.
Hey, those 2 teams, one of them GSM, one of them
NIP?
NIP. They had won it and they weren't quite able to get it back.
Now, look at Virtue. That's an Amaru. Where's the Garahoot gonna go?
There.
Right there, yes. It's gonna try and put instant pressure towards Dragon. It was really close to actually picking up a little bit of damage onto Muzi out there.
I mean, that is a player who on his face always looks so cool, so calm.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it in the 1 versus 4 almost clutch before, is same expression. He could be like sort of a train goes past him. And he doesn't even look, doesn't even care. Cool guys don't look at explosions.
Or trains. Right.
Or trains. I don't know why that was the first thing. I just think that'd be a really cool visual.
Like
Media
train
team.
whizzing by, yeah.
Media team, can you book a train for the next media day? That would probably be a little bit outside the budget. How much do you think it costs to rent a train?
I don't know how much it costs to rent a train. Do you want one of those modern trains, or like the old steam engines?
I think that the faster and more dangerous the train, the cooler the photo.
So you want like the magnet train that's going around in Japan, I
Let's
believe.
get a bullet
like
train
500 kilometers an hour.
Yeah, I think Muzi, if that went right by him, would still stand.
Lay underneath the track.
Talking of cool and connected, Avenger, not caught, is actually the C word that gets him there. There's the swing over the top. Virtue does find Psycho in a different engagement as Wizard is slowly forced further and further out of Geisha. He has a bit of a rotate, and Muzi has the support, and Pino as well. Valimau getting a pistol kill. He takes control of Sushi Bar, but he's caught in the middle. And there's a lot of different angles and places he could be swung on here as he finds out. Wins the first fight, though. The close engagement goes into his favor. Has a lot of time, but he's still in a very dangerous position. He needs support. He needs a way to get closer towards Uno, which he's found with a little bit of a do or die hop.
Yeah, I mean, there is that verticality that you still have to worry about, right? And that is what Wizard was looking to play. Now finds himself closer towards the actual staircase as Alamau is looking to find himself a way towards the actual bomb site. Still hopping around, though. Not quite sure where it's actually going to be safe to move as Uno gets taken down, rather, by Muzi from above. And again, that verticality is that true danger out here. And Alamau, well, if as soon as he starts planting, he's just going to get shot. So he needs to try and find one of them so he can isolate the angles.
I mean, here it is. The 1 versus 2. They have the full vertical control. They're more than close enough to swing onto this engagement as well. There is nowhere that is safe. And he is well aware of it. There's the play on the plant. There's the hope and the hold. Cannot win the engagement. And what a timeout and a team talk that has turned out to be from NIP. The first 3 rounds were tragic. Let's be real. The next 3 were pretty meteoric. I would say the first time today we've seen NIP play like NIP.
Yeah, they've definitely picked it up after that tactical timeout there, and brought it back. Even though round 4 was still quite close, as the diffuser was about to go down if it wasn't for that Valkyrie camera out there. This round here was quite close as well, but just that verticality that G2 didn't deal with eventually being their downfall. They wanted to go for just a purely horizontal take. Didn't really work out for them. But now they'll be over towards the defense themselves. And we've mentioned this before, it's the favorite side to be on for Skyscraper. Them having 3 rounds already is good news.
I mean, it's great news. It's the best news. Them being the most recent 3 rounds, the even better news. Print the presses. Suddenly they've been able to find their way of playing together because, as you said, their defenses, their holds, I'm super excited to go back and sort of look at the exact positioning because I love the intricacies. I loved how ready it was to rock and roll with the approaches of G2 and sort of, you know, push back against it, counterplay towards it. It's given them a confidence, and you need it before you go into attacking this map, regardless of whether you've come off the back of being clean swept before.
The issue that NIP was facing, though, was the early aggression from G2 on their own attacks when NIP was attacking on the side of Clubhouse. When G2 could just play their game, go aggressive early on and find themselves with those kills, that's when they really started to struggle. So what you see now is you see them watch their drones, watch those windows where usually these kind of jump outs come out from, to see if they can catch any of these G2 players off guard. But it seems like they've slowed it down themselves as well. Like they're not actually trying to go for the earliest peak possible.
Who will get that first break? It's, you know, as I said, the site choice and the site sort of preference as a first lead in, usually it is towards karaoke side. Instead, here, G2, they opt to pull themselves onto the opposite end. The second site, and still with the solidity that the second story can offer you. But the first break and the first swing might come here towards Alamau. He's holding onto house stairs and VIP as best as he can. The break of the Thatcher, the break onto the walls, is going to make his position much trickier now. The support has to come from Dragon, has to come from behind him. But those players, Benja and Alamau, are now very isolated.
Pino is finding himself challenged as well. He opens up the floorings above, instantly being replied on by some of the members of G2 that are just trying to find themselves with some aggression. Now, Virtu.e has been spotted getting into that position. Not sure if they know exactly where he is. Now they definitely do. Being right behind him. But you know, he is not trying to overstep himself as well.
But what do you do at this position? There's a minute 10. They have the two players underneath, but to get to that fight, you've got to take it. So they're just watching it. They're sort of saying, okay, well, you know, we'll try and put this pressure elsewhere and have some awareness. Alamau goes down with the C4. It gets shot out. Nobody loses their life, but time is what is being sort of taken away. Here's the other option. They've rotated around. Virtue's caught on a drone, but he's happy to play against it for a little bit. There's the lockdown. Wizard finally makes some motion. However, 20 seconds has passed. Precious time. They can finally start opening up and forcing Benja out. The plant still has to go down. The kit still has to go down. They've lost his position before, and it's getting kind of dangerous, kind of dicey here with 30 seconds left.
There's still really no control coming through from the side of NIP. They have the bottom floor, but what does that give you? Well, a lot of verticalities you have to worry about currently as Doki is putting down some shots, and it looks like they might want to go from the exhibition wall as well, but it's being held off by Benja right now, playing right behind that bomb chassis. A jump in from Samurai as well must be the saving grace for the side of NIP, but Benja's out there. We'll find the very first spots a player onto the wall as well, which he does take down. You know, with a team kill onto Doki, makes it very chaotic in these last 3 seconds.
I mean, even with all of the take and all of the pressure underneath, the fact that Benja was able to stay where he was in a position to swing onto the Samurai window, he was in a position to swing onto the breach. They had the buck underneath. They knew the full read of Benja's position, and yet, because of all the time that was needed to get rid of Virtue, and then the time that was left, they could not try and push that vertical advantage. They had to get those two players underneath, up top, to support the take itself onto the site. Benja's first kill, I believe, was a run out onto the breach as well. There it is, just the swing round onto the side. And here, that position, think how long the buck was working on the back of the table because of Benja. And he never left the room.
I mean, and this is the thing, right? Like, I call it with like 40 seconds left. Like, what real control do they have? Nothing, right? They have downstairs, sure. There is some verticality, also sure. But you need to be on that top floor at the moment that the diffuser needs to go down. And when you start losing those members, when you try and make that entry, because there is no other option than making the entry at the time they did, then it really starts to get panicky. You try whatever you can. G2 able to punish that one, well, supremely.
Attackers are moving to defuse
We find ourselves obviously a bit more back and forth than we were in the previous map. I think NIP still showed some obvious good signs, some growth throughout this series so far. Best of threes handled very differently, obviously, to best of ones, which is where they've been able to sort of suffer. So technically, you know, that if they do lose their first game, it's only been the one map and then they bounce back. there were some great moments there from NIP. The difference could have been 10, 15 seconds on the round, and it could have been theirs to lock in, because even at the end, it was a back and forth spray. It was a back and forth fight. That can be tuned onto. That can be sort of progressed throughout this map and this series. And that could be something where G2 have to be aware of it, because they are playing generally a lot more timid, a lot more sort of close to their chest. There is the stretch onto the other side in this round. They've given themselves a little bit more wiggle room, but that might be something NIP tries to exploit here. Full pressure towards the top of Black Stairs.
For sure, and as the blitz is starting to come through, there's some smokes, some flashbangs, some bees, whatever you can imagine is coming through, and Con's now needing to push through. A player prone on the Black Stairs gets taken down from 2 different directions. A lot of damage onto Psycho as Pino takes down Virtue as well. It seems like NIP have a really good opportunity to get a quick plan done here, and no one from G2 currently in a position where they can find a response, where they can take down Set Diffuser Carrier.
I mean, brilliant, brilliant drive there. As I said, they sort of went full pressure onto the top, and there's Doki getting 1.5 onto Muzi, but saved as Con slides their way through. They suffer the spray on the back, but they can get the revive, and that is the important part of this. Uno does suffer in a different engagement. There's obviously still more than enough players to go for the fight, but it gives Benja a second to step their way in. Holding onto Black Stairs, holding onto the swing. The Blitz suffers a shoulder of damage, but he cannot sit around, because if he does, he will be locked out and locked down. Uno, he's got the crossed angle, he's got the watch, they have a little bit of attention, but as the blinds come through, they're just gonna see if they can try and drone out. 50 seconds, and as I said, 15 seconds was the difference before. When you got 50, they have more than enough to get the lockout. Benja in the 1 versus 4 post-plant finally gets a bite onto the back end and stops some of the bleeding, but when you've got a blitz, they've got window control, they've got underneath. I mean, this is one of those unwinnable situations I talked about before. They've still got shields to watch as well. The utility was left up on the purpose of this, and the purpose is for a piece.
Now, NIP, they had the opportunity to go for a way quicker plant in the exact same spot where they actually put it down before, but there was a bit of doubt. Is the player downstairs? We don't know. Is the players trying to retake? Didn't also know that either.
Disagree. It wasn't doubt. It was very well calculated, because they had a player underneath. They had a player at the bottom of Black. They knew they had the control there. What they did instead was go and keep their man advantage. They realize and know how much time they have because of how snappy they were. The revive onto the player outside onto the door became priority number 1, not the plant itself. Because if they're in that situation, at that point it was a 3 versus 4, and they go for the plant and a player's down, then G2 have that man advantage. They have that body advantage. Instead, play on what they know, push on what they know, keep the blitz close with the play against them. Do not give G2 even a whiff. I think they knew more than you think they might have known.
No, I agree, but I meant on the initial push, they started to push in when the blitz was already finding themselves deep in karaoke. The players of G2 at that point, there's one in karaoke, the other 2 were on the opposite side of the map at that point. So there was an opportunity to plant, but back then they slowed it down, as you said, but mostly to stabilize themselves and not really keep on pushing as they went on.
What's that in the top left? G2, only one of 3 teams to make both major live stages this year. The others are FaZe and W7M. I'll add on to this. They're one of only 2 teams to do that, including SI, with W7M being the other one as FaZe. I do not believe, off the top of my head, made SI live stage.
Wait, who are we talking about?
FaZe? Yeah, they've been live stage at both Atlanta and Copenhagen alongside W7M and alongside G2, but at 6 Invite 2023 if we want to get the full stretch, because not a huge amount of teams were at the live stages. I think they'd...
No, FaZe got knocked out in lower bracket round 1 by
Oh, talking about knocked out, there's another team kill. That is a little bit of a shame, but I mean, to be honest, maybe that's just a, hey, G2 will give you a freebie at this point. Benja and Doki both gone as well. You do lose Muzi on this approach. However, with how things have gone so far, with Psycho going for the quick pace, the Candela's on the back of it, the zip inside doesn't quite net Psycho the rest of it, and with the C4 and Virtue, suddenly, the tide has shifted. The round was in a good bit of control from the quick pacey play of NIP and the quick take, and with Virtue just drifting on by, Cons is left with the kit in pocket, with the gun in hand, but not much else other than a lot of time here in the 1 versus 3.
big difference in how NIP approached this round in the attack compared to how G2 did. G2 wanted to go horizontal, wanted to take that site under control, whereas NIP really focused on getting the top floor. And it seems to be working out too much here. Gonna die by the goo mine eventually. And G2, they managed to retake that lead, but it has been way closer this map than it has been on Clubhouse.
I think there as well, NIP, they obviously went for a play and it started very successfully. I'm not sure how much the team kill would have shaken things. You lose one player, and as I said, it's not the end of the world, but they seemed a little bit stuck as to what to do after the quick play, after the zip, after getting in and getting the 2 kills. They were sort of like, okay, what now? Maybe Muzi was a drive on that. They're a nook. Yeah, sometimes with the change of grenades, less so. Nowadays, there it is, the pop round, and here's the accident. Just unfortunately caught out. And then inside, above, not really sure what to do. Virtue swings and sweeps on by.
It was a good first kill that we saw though. Like, they knew that G2 was gonna eye up the potential jump out, right? Like, it's like if we show that we're on this balcony, so being able to pick up the first like that, not expecting the second, and thus the team kill coming in at that moment in time, is what it is. It's just small mistakes happen like that, and now they just need to reset themselves and prepare themselves for exhibition, which of course was won by G2 as well back in round 7.
It was, and where I sort of, you know, had questions, or not had questions, had moments that didn't quite work for them, they realized that as well. NIP, they're not going for this block take, they're not going for the pressure underneath, they're sort of saying it didn't quite work for us, so instead we have some of that direct drive, but the Muzi Nomad role gives me the idea of they want to take full top control. They want to just get those doors cemented, whether you do it on sort of black stairs or main stairs, or you pull it one level closer. You can cement 2 doors and they rotate on towards Geisha or make up it. If they take that option on drum, it gives you a sort of carte blanche there of protection, you know, almost shot on the approach.
I was just going to ask, how hard is G2 going to be defending this? And if they bring the fight outside like that, it's
pretty hard.
It already tells you that they are willing to go in quite hard to make sure not too much ground is lost. Now, they are aware of the fact that there is a Valkyrie camera up on the beams out there, so as soon as they do move in, they will be potentially spotted, or at least they know it's been cleared out as soon as the Valkyrie camera does get destroyed, and that will alert players like Doki, like Alamau, who were playing on this side of the map, that there is indeed trouble coming.
Well, there's trouble, and his name is Doki, and he's able to take care of Psycho. They've lost the IQ, sort of reminiscent of how Doki dropped the IQ of Psycho ages ago. Now they've lost the line as well, and there goes the Ying, and everything is sort of falling apart. As I said, this is exactly the take that they wanted to do. Unfortunately for them, this is exactly the take G2 has set up to rebuff. Swung straight in to a lot of players, ready for the engagements here. And, well, with Muzi and Wizard able to get one apiece, they're trying to put the chase onto the fight itself. The flash is just to force the player back towards drum. This is the other second story. Alamau can pull it back towards these other choke points and keep the man advantage, which they do.
I think Doki went a bit too aggressive there, maybe around those boxes, right? You missed the first opportunity for the gunfight, leans back in, gets taken out afterwards, you lose Virtue. Suddenly that 5v2 you were in turns into a 3v2. And, you know, there was no pressure even on the side at that point, so you could have just fallen back. If this turns around, that's the moment where it goes wrong. We don't know if that's the case, but that's the moment you would be looking at that point.
Attackers have recovered their
as
diffuser.
Benja is setting himself up on the next choke point, it is Dragon that is slowly but steadily being taken under control by Muzi. He's cutting off the angles with those air jabs to make sure no one's going to be leading back into that room from the defense.
The huge part of this is you have the 2 players on NIP that are between them 23 kills. They have been huge on this map so far, and Muzi is seeing if he can add a couple more. There's the first. A great take, but he doesn't know about the player on VIP stairs, and he gets caught out. Almost got the catch. It's Alamau with the lockdown of 2 versus 1. 15 seconds here for Wizard to try and make some magic happen once again, but it's the C4 spell that he's not quite learned. And G2 get themselves a little bit of a buffer, a little bit of a dangerous situation here, 6-4. They are 1 round away from securing the first series of SI 2024.
All right, with that, match point to come through, karaoke as well to be brought. Now, this was the initial quick take that we saw be quite successful on the side of NIP. And that means that we do need to see a bit of a change from G2 to make sure that that doesn't happen again, so they're ready for these kind of situations, because it was a pretty good isolation from NIP. Oh, there's one player onto the black stairs. That's the main point we need to take control of. Flashbangs to come in, smokes to block any other line of sight, and they manage to take that under control and just steamroll from there on forward. How is that going to change? Again, great round by G2 there in the last one. Maybe a bit of an over-aggression in the middle part of it, but they still managed to bring it back and salvage that round. Well, not really salvage, but bring it home rather.
10 seconds to insertion.
G2. I mean, what a great start it would be to any campaign, let's be honest. But as I said, if you are unfamiliar with how things sort of work, one team won't be able to make it out of each of the groups.
Yep.
And then based on where you finish in the other remaining 4 spots is where you get filtered through. Some of them get upper, some of them get lower bracket across the board. It is a lot of siege to be played. So this win might not be the difference of whether they get out of groups, but it could be the break on whether they get into the sort of upper bracket position or lower bracket.
Now, for sure, and you know, NRP, they have this stat, you called it, they lost their opening games in the previous major.
Oh, yeah.
They're always slow to get going. It might be better to go up against what could be the favorite of the group first. Have a tough game against that, it's whatever. Just win against the rest right afterwards.
And obviously, as this is the first game to get locked in, you know that the other teams from this group are going to be very keenly watching this. They'll be preparing. They've got their games in hand as well. They'll be happening in the same place just after this. And there's Alamau taking care of Pino, getting that bite onto the Buck. They lose that soft destruction. They lose some of that pressure. And this is where NIP struggle when things change during a round. We talked about it at the very beginning. They are fantastic at their setup and takes. But if things go wrong, if bodies start to fall apart, suddenly it becomes much more reliant on players like Muzi to do things like that. Filthy take across the vertical. Wizard finds Doki as well, and without him out getting it even, you feel like Muzi might be about to find the back of this player. He has no idea. And there is a ring around the rosies with a violent end.
NRP to bring it back into their own favor, even though the opening kill was against them. Still some verticality, and Muzi gets taken down as well, so we're back in a 2-on-2. You might wonder, where are those last two players? All the way on the other side of the map. A minute 10 left on the clock. The fight was taking place all around the objective, but Wizard and Cons, they find themselves around the house area, moving their drones into position to find the information to go for an execute.
Last time we had these two players as the last two alive versus, I think it might have been exactly the same two players. No, it was Alamau and Uno in Clubhouse. NIP, Wizard and Cons were able to win it out. Yes, they're on the sort of pressure position. It was a very different angled game, but here the pressure is still hot. You are still 1 round away. Can they try and double down, get themselves a little bit more of that momentum as the new blood, the fresh players onto this team, some of the only ones that aren't holding hammers previously in this lobby. 30 seconds left. And they're slowly just picking their way apart here from the back of drum. Gold is going to get opened up. They just want to sort of tuck in, but the C4 tucks them right back out. And Wizard, a huge map, a huge game so far, pushes the blind, dives right up, but it's a crossfire from G2. It's a 2-0 from G2. And your reigning SI champions open up with a very powerful showing.
This map definitely a lot more difficult for them than Clubhouse.